All right, so let's dive into something I think we're all pretty familiar with these days.
Yeah.
Social media, we're constantly, bombarded with it, scrolling through our feeds, liking posts, sharing stories.
Right.
But have you ever stopped to think about how much it really affects us,
hmm
even in ways we might not realize?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's easy to dismiss social media as just a bit of fun,
Right.
but the truth is we're spending an incredible amount of time on these platforms.
Yeah.
Like the average person is on social media for over 2 hours every single day.
Wow.
It's more than a month out of the year.
That's a lot.
It is.
Yeah.
And while there are definite benefits,
Oh, yeah.
like connecting with friends and discovering new information,
Right.
it's designed to keep us hooked.
It's true. It can be hard to put your phone down sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we've all experienced that feeling of seeing everyone else's seemingly perfect lives online
Mm-hmm.
and feeling a bit, inadequate in comparison.
For sure.
It's that fear of missing out, that FOMO
Yeah.
that they seem to tap into so well.
And and it's not by accident. These platforms are built around sophisticated algorithms
Right.
that are designed to trigger our emotions.
Really?
Yeah, they know that things like outrage, envy, even anxiety
Oh, wow.
keep us clicking and coming back for more.
Interesting.
It's a bit like a slot machine where you get a little dopamine hit with every notification and like,
So it's almost like we're playing a game we
yeah,
didn't even sign up for.
exactly.
This makes me think about something you mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
this idea of JOMO,
Yes,
the joy of missing out.
the joy of missing out.
I have to admit, that sounds kind of intriguing.
It is. It's a powerful concept.
Yeah.
It's about shifting your mindset from feeling like you need to be constantly connected
Okay.
to finding contentment in disconnecting.
Interesting.
It's the realization that you don't have to know every viral trend
Right.
or see what everyone had for dinner last night.
Right.
Your worth isn't tied to how active you are on social media.
Yeah. I love that. I actually had a taste of JOMO last year when I went on a camping trip with absolutely no cell service.
Oh, wow.
I thought I'd go crazy without my phone,
Yeah.
but it was incredible.
Really?
I ended up reading an entire book,
Nice.
having actual conversations with the people around me,
Wonderful.
and just enjoying the peace and quiet.
That's great.
It was almost like hitting a reset button.
I bet.
So how can we actually put this JOMO into practice in our daily lives?
Well, the research we've gathered outlines 5 key strategies.
Okay, let's hear them.
First up is setting boundaries.
Okay.
This is about consciously deciding when and how you engage with social media.
Mm-hmm.
You can set specific times for checking your feeds,
Okay.
and outside those times, put your phone on Do Not Disturb,
Right.
or even use apps that block certain websites or apps for a period of time.
It's about giving yourself permission to disconnect, right?
Exactly.
I can see how that would be helpful. What's next?
Next is curating your feed. If there's an account that constantly makes you feel bad or triggers those feelings of comparison or inadequacy,
Right.
unfollow them.
Yeah.
It might seem simple, but you have the power to choose what you consume online.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, fill your feed with content that inspires you, makes you laugh,
Yes.
teaches you something new, or simply makes you feel good.
This one really resonates with me. I recently unfollowed a fitness influencer who, while incredibly talented,
Yeah,
just made me feel bad about my own workout routine.
I see.
And you know what? My feed is so much more positive now.
That's great.
It's interesting, though, because even when you try to curate your feed,
Yeah.
those algorithms are still working in the background, right?
You're exactly right. It's
Yeah.
like a constant tug of war.
Wow.
But becoming aware of how those algorithms work can actually be helpful.
Okay.
For example, you know how you tend to see more posts from people you interact with the most?
Right.
That's the algorithm at work, trying to prioritize content it thinks you'll engage with.
Wow.
But it can also create these filter bubbles
Oh, interesting.
that limit your exposure to different viewpoints and ideas.
That's a good point. It's almost like the algorithm is trying to keep you in a little echo chamber.
Yeah,
So how do we break free from that?
right.
Is it even possible?
It definitely takes effort.
Yeah.
One way is to consciously seek out diverse perspectives.
Okay.
Follow accounts that challenge your assumptions,
Right.
introduce you to new ideas, or simply offer a different point of view.
That makes sense. Okay, so we've talked about setting boundaries and curating our feeds.
Yes.
What's the third strategy?
The third one is practicing mindfulness.
Okay.
This is about becoming more aware of your motivations for using social media
Mm-hmm.
before you mindlessly open that app.
Right.
Take a moment to pause and ask yourself,
Yeah.
why am I doing this?
Uh.
Am I bored,
Right.
stressed,
Yeah.
procrastinating?
Mm-hmm.
Simply being aware of your triggers can help you break those automatic scrolling habits.
It's like taking a moment to check in with yourself before diving down that rabbit hole.
Exactly.
That's a really practical tip. I like that.
Okay.
What are the last two strategies?
The fourth strategy is all about focusing on real-life connections.
Right.
Instead of just liking someone's post,
Right.
pick up the phone and call them.
Yeah.
Or better yet, meet up for coffee.
Right.
Put the energy you spend scrolling into nurturing those real-world relationships.
I think we can all relate to that feeling of getting lost in the digital world and
Yes.
forgetting about the people right in front of us.
For sure.
What about the final strategy?
The final and perhaps most important strategy is embracing that JOMO.
Okay.
Remind yourself that it's perfectly okay to not be constantly plugged in.
Right.
In fact, it's incredibly liberating to choose your own experiences instead of living vicariously through someone else's highlight reel.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I love the idea of focusing on those real life experiences, instead of just watching them through a screen.
Right.
It's so easy to forget how much richer and more fulfilling those in-person connections can be.
It really is. And I think that's what makes the concept of JOMO so appealing.
Yeah.
It's not about deprivation. It's about empowerment.
Okay.
It's about choosing what truly matters to you
Yeah.
outside of the social media bubble.
That's a great way to put it. I'm curious, have you personally experimented with any of these JOMO strategies?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I actually make it a point to have regular digital detox weekends.
Oh, wow.
I turn off all notifications,
Yeah.
put my phone away, and just focus on being present in the real world.
Okay.
And you know what? It's amazing how much more you notice when you're not constantly glued to a screen.
Really?
Colors seem brighter, food tastes better, and conversations are more meaningful.
Interesting.
It's a real reset for your mind and senses.
You're making me want to book a cabin in the woods right now.
Right.
But I imagine it can be tough to break those digital habits.
Yeah.
Especially when social media is so ingrained in our daily lives.
It definitely takes effort, but I promise it's worth it.
Okay.
And remember, you don't have to go cold turkey. You can start small, maybe try a social media-free evening once a week,
Okay.
or dedicate one day a month to disconnecting completely.
Got it.
Just see how it feels.
That's great advice. Maybe use that time to do something you truly enjoy, something that you always say you don't have time for,
Yes.
but that brings you joy and fulfillment.
That's the spirit, whether it's reading, painting, spending time in nature, learning a new skill,
Yeah.
or simply having a deep conversation with a loved one.
Right.
Those are the experiences that truly enrich our lives,
Yeah.
not the endless scrolling and comparing that often leaves us feeling empty.
One of the sources we have actually shares a story about a woman named Sarah who decided to take a social media break.
Okay.
She's a graphic designer, and she felt like Instagram was consuming her life,
Yeah.
making her constantly compare herself to other artists and really impacting her self-esteem.
That's such a common experience, especially for creative professionals.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in the comparison game when you're constantly exposed to other people's curated online personas.
Exactly. But Sarah actually took a whole month off Instagram.
Wow.
And she said that while it was challenging at first, she ended up feeling so much freer,
Good for her.
more productive, and more confident in her own work.
That's fantastic.
And it really speaks to the power of taking even a short break from social media.
Yes.
It allows you to gain perspective, reset your priorities, and rediscover what truly matters to you.
Absolutely.
You don't necessarily need to take a whole month off, but even a 24-hour detox can be incredibly beneficial. Well, I'm definitely feeling inspired to try that myself. What would you say is the most important takeaway for our listeners when it comes to navigating social media in a healthy way?
I think the most crucial thing is awareness.
Okay.
Start paying attention to how you feel when you're on social media.
Yeah.
Are you feeling inspired, connected, informed?
Right.
Or are you feeling inadequate, anxious, or drained?
Mm-hmm.
Tune in to your emotions and let them be your guide.
It's like a gut check, right?
Ex-
If it doesn't feel good, maybe it's time to step away or reevaluate how you're using that platform.
Precisely. And once you start to become aware of those negative feelings,
Right.
that's when you can start implementing some of the strategies we've discussed today.
Okay.
Setting boundaries, curating your feed, practicing mindfulness.
Yeah.
It's a journey, and it's different for everyone.
It's not about demonizing social media entirely, right?
No, not at all.
It's about finding that sweet spot where you're using it consciously and intentionally, not letting it use you.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that social media is a tool, not a ruler.
Right.
We get to choose how we use it, how much we let it influence us, and what role it plays in our lives.
Yeah.
We have the power.
And that's such a liberating thought, isn't it? It's not about giving up social media altogether.
Right.
It's about taking back control and using it in a way that aligns with our values and goals.
I agree.
One of my favorite takeaways from the sources is this idea that social media is a tool, not a ruler.
Yes.
It really puts things into perspective.
It's such a powerful reminder.
Yeah.
We have the power to decide how social media fits into our lives, not the other way around.
This has been such an insightful conversation, but before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought-provoking question.
I'm all ears. What's got you pondering?
Well, we've talked a lot about the joy of missing out, but I'm curious, what is it that you're choosing to say yes to instead?
Yeah.
What are those things outside of the social media bubble that truly matter to you?
Yeah.
What would you gain by focusing on those things?
Yeah.
What would your life look like if you spent less time scrolling and more time living?
Those are fantastic questions.
Yeah.
Really something to reflect on. I encourage our listeners to take some time to think about those things as well.
Yeah.
What are you passionate about?
Right.
What brings you joy?
Yeah.
What do you want to create or experience in the real world?
I think that's the perfect note to end on. It's about remembering that there's a whole world out there beyond our screens, full of possibilities and adventures waiting to be discovered.
And you don't want to miss out on those.
It's so easy to get caught up in the digital world and, forget about all the amazing things happening right outside our doors.
You're absolutely right. And the thing is, those real life experiences are what truly shape us, connect us,
Yeah,
and make us feel alive.
exactly. So for our listeners who are feeling inspired to take back control of their social media use and rediscover those real world joys, what advice would you give them? Where should they start?
I'd say start by picking one small thing from our conversation today and putting it into practice.
Okay.
Maybe it's setting a 30-minute time limit for social media each day, or
Right.
unfollowing a few accounts that make you feel less than.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, it's a journey, not a race.
That's such a good point.
Hmm.
Little changes can make a big difference over time.
Yeah.
And I'm sure our listeners have their own tips and experiences to share as well.
Absolutely. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
What are your favorite strategies for managing social media and embracing JOMO? Let's keep this conversation going and learn from each other.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive into the world of social media and the power of JOMO.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that we have more control than we think over how these platforms affect our lives.
Right.
We can choose to use them as tools for connection and inspiration,
Exactly.
or we can let them become sources of distraction and discontent.
It's all about being mindful and making intentional choices.
Yeah.
And remember, the joy of missing out is waiting for you on the other side of that screen.
So go ahead, put down your phone, step away from the screen, and rediscover the beauty of the present moment. You might be surprised at what you find.
I agree.
Until next time, happy disconnecting.
Sounds good.
And remember, folks, the real world is waiting. Go out there and make some memories that don't need a filter. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you on the flip side.